It's Bruce Ferris here with Winter Real Estate. It is the 12th of March. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the state of the market and focus primarily on the south end for market analysis research. I'm going to take a look here at our stats tracker, move out quickly through this. But notice here in this column, as these numbers rise, these are the number of properties that are a total amount of pendings, and these are the numbers of the total pendings that are going pending within a week time period. Yellow means that is the crest for the year. Similarly here, pending inspections for 6 days or less, that number has continued to rise. And so we have the highest concentration of properties that are going off market in 6 days or less. Whereas in terms of our newly actives, it continues to hover back and forth, basically fluctuate between 150 and 200 properties per week. So we are not seeing an inventory that is reflecting or keeping up with what we're seeing over here in our off market. So one last thing here, our 6 day off markets in relationship to pendings and pending inspections is 51%. That means that of the pendings and pending inspections in the last weekly cycle, 51% of them went off market in 6 days or less. And similarly, in terms of the weekly numbers of properties coming on market, we have a similar numbers. 42% of the pendings 42% of this number are going off market in 6 days or less. Boy, it's hard to get that one out, but I think you kind of get it. So that's a very seller-friendly market. Let's go ahead and head on over here then to Matrix, and we're going to take a look at this area. This is our south end. I'm going to keep inside of the what I'll call the more wealthy areas and just really look at the center core of all of this. That's really going to help me figure out where the market's moving up and down. If I bring in some expensive properties, that can skew some numbers. So currently we got 35 properties that are showing up. My criteria was 3 bedrooms, 1.75 baths to 2 baths built prior to 1980. So I have a consistent set of numbers. Last 180 days of sold. So the first thing we'll do is take a look at the statistics on those, and there's 2 of the properties are on market, 2 are pending. In terms of those sold, 31 of them, average market time of 61 days, 101.62% sale price list price ratio. Average price per square foot is roughly $360. Average sale price on those ultimately is about $616,000. However, we have a number of properties here that are well beyond what the market should be, and they're skewing the numbers. So I'm going to pull those out real quickly and take a look at this a second time without those few anomalies. Here we go, and now we look at this, and it's a different set of numbers. 102% basically, and 600, we'll call it 640. I'll round that up a little bit. And 26 of those properties, 1,820 square feet average, and $364 per square foot. 25 days on market average. Again, if I just look at the CDOM column here and we follow down, I would suggest that more than half are in the 8 day or less. Let's take a quick look at that. All right, let's see if I was correct in my assumption. I'm going to click the first one and go down to here and click the other one for 10 days. That gives us 15. Well, it's basically right down the center. 15, half of the 30, half of the 29 went off market in 10 days or less. I guess that's consistent with the numbers we saw in the stats tracker a minute ago. So the south end is holding to that as well. If I look at these numbers right here, 12, 23. So really that 12 could be part of this grouping. And then we jump 10 days, 23, and then 31, 32. And then we have longer market times on these here. So for those properties then that went off market in 10 days or less, let's take a look. Let's take a look at how those fare, and let's zip over here. And for the now I see we've got 1 active and 1 pending that are under that time frame. So really, we got 13 sales under 10 days or less, but that's 105.25. So that puts a start price average of 627, pushing it up to 657. 627 to 657, 105.25. There we go. 1839 average square foot. That's good to know. And 375, I'll call it for price per square foot. We're now going to look at properties that we've got 1,700 to 2,200. We're taking out the baths on this and increasing our amount. So we're ending up with 19 sales, and we're at call it 360, 356, 357 per square foot. 705 ending up at 698, but in relationship to the final list price after they've dropped, we're at 101.18. We're really looking at 1956 square feet. So let's take a look at the price per square foot on these different sets. If I take out the bathroom configuration, again, we get 19 of them and 16 of them, and we there you go, 357, I'm going to call it. And then looking at our next group, 375, if I'm looking at indeed those 1.75 to 2 bath properties. And so we jump up 375 from 357 for our other set. We were at 364, and then finally our first grouping was at 360. So we started moving up every time we changed the parameters. This was our 10-day or less grouping, 375. So that's what's being paid for those. Our overall was 365 if I limited the bath to 1.75 to 2. But here's one where everything was across the board, and I didn't care what the market time was. 360. So finally, getting back over to here, 356 is our average for every type of bath. And one more time, 375. So let's go ahead and take a look now at our listing worksheet that we're working on. There it is. Forgive me the tab. And so I'm working on a property here that purchased for $339 in 2013 and 1,910 square feet, 3 bedrooms and 2.5 baths. But I'm just going to leave it at 2 for the analysis because the MLS doesn't allow me to actually sweep that closely. At time of purchase, the standardization for that area, looking in that whole area, time of purchase was $320,000. And if I take a look at the exact same area right now using the same set of parameters over here, I get 600. I'm going to call it 625 for fun. That's 195% increase. Price per square foot has been put at 327 using that set of numbers. And when I applied that increase to our initial sales price here at 339, MLS shows 350, but this is sure. Let's call it 340 for fun. So we're looking at about $660,000 stat here if we apply this set of numbers to it. And Case-Shiller and NWMLS King County using the same set of numbers, they're much smaller, 536, 530, and 520. So we're going to throw those out. Zillow, we don't care usually about what Zillow says about the property, but we do care about what Zillow says about the area in terms of what things have changed. And looking at the area at time of purchase, 314,000, and then the area currently at 614,000, and using that number gives us a 685 basically. So we now have two sets of numbers here, 625 to 685, and CoreLogic is showing it at 620, Realtor.com 655, 655, and 652 for Redfin there. So if I go back up over here and I've looked at local area 3-bedroom stats, median sale price of $504,000, 389 price per square foot median, 31 days on market, 98.5% sale price list price ratio. Interesting, if I apply those numbers directly, we'd end up at 750, which I don't think is accurate at all. Simultaneously, if I use InfoSparks, which is a different type of statistics, this is an example of the graph here. South End I-90 down to Othello at time of purchase, using those stats, this was for 3 bedrooms, was 405, and now it's 675, 166.67% change. Gives us a 565. But if I look closer at Hillman City and Columbia City, 335 then, 625 then, very similar to the numbers we're seeing over here. 632 is what we end up with that grouping. So if I'm going to jump down here and just go for a range at this point, and I saw that there were some high range numbers that took us as high as 730,000, and I'm looking at what the price per square footage is on that, and then I'm comparing that then to my price per square foot of 375 for that group that sold 10 days or less that had the 1.75 baths to 2 baths, and then also take a look and temper it with those that have all sorts of bath configurations at 300, call it 357. If I go back to that listing worksheet and look at these numbers, here's 355. Let's just make it 357 for fun. And there's 681. If I were to take that 376, I think that's what that was, 375, and throw that in there and put that on that number there, 716,000. I'm wary of that number, but it's possible. It's at least statistically possible. So here is our range, guys, and I'm looking somewhere in this area right about here, depending upon what we can do with the property. But that really reflects what's going on in the south end overall. If you're one of our clients that's just looking over our shoulders and taking a look at what's going on in the neighborhood, and if you are our specific client, we are zoning in on our range, and this will be dependent upon what we do to the property. With that, Bruce Ferris here, Windermere Real Estate. It is the 12th of March. I always record the date on these, and that is it for the South End market report, and we'll talk to you later. Take care.